New York Times bestselling author who you can follow on Twitter at Ann Coulter and read online at anncoulter.com. Ann Coulter, Ann, thanks so much for joining us.
Good to talk to you, John Phillips.
Well, I've got plenty of time to talk because I'm going to be on house arrest forever.
Yes, I just heard, and 122 degrees sounds lovely. The upside is I just realized listening to you and Gavin Newsom, I think I'm changing my mind on this whole school opening thing. I know that children are at basically zero risk for getting or transmitting the disease. It doesn't seem that hard to tell any teachers who are at risk that they don't have to show up, but will have to take reduced pay, or like, the rest of us in the private sector, no pay. But I think they'll look back at this generation. They'll see when they're, dissecting the end of America and say, it's very weird. There's this 1 year in there where the kids didn't hate America. They didn't hate white people. Oh, I see, the schools were closed.
Yeah, it's a double-edged sword because what happens when you leave the kids home from school? A, there's going to be all kinds of crimes that are committed because a lot of them will just be left at home on their own because the parents have to go to work. So they'll break in the cars and do those sorts of things. But you're right. It will prove to the public what we don't need. Like, for example, we're told that if we don't offer breakfast and lunch at the schools at taxpayer expense, that children will starve. My guess is they're going to be home from school without their government-subsidized breakfasts and lunches, and they'll be just fine. We're told that the 12th grade in high school is absolutely necessary, and if you eliminate that, kids will have all kinds of problems. We'll learn that we can do just fine without the 12th grade, in addition to any number of other areas that are just costly and a waste of time.
Yes, I think I, like most people, learned more things just from reading at home and not from any sort of schooling. Maybe a little schooling, a few college classes here and there. But I've already thought of that when you were talking about the crime, because, that is the downside, and I don't mean crime coming from inside the home. Since police can't do anything else, and we now have social workers, maybe we can send the social workers to take care of parents who are the ones who are actually using their kids. But if you're talking about the criminals breaking into the homes, and there are a lot more criminals that in California now, thanks to Gavin Newsom, now would be a fantastic time to get in an education, something that will be invaluable for the rest of their lives, learn to shoot a gun.
Where do you think this ends? Because I just don't see an end to this in sight. First of all, I'm not convinced that there's going to be a vaccine. Second of all,
yeah, I agree.
A lot of people say that this is just political and people want Donald Trump out of the White House and therefore they're hair on fire about this and they'll be fine with it the day after Election Day. I don't believe that. The people I know who are absolutely convinced that they're going to die seem to be completely and totally sincere. And if Joe Biden wins, if Donald Trump wins, then theoretically, if they were politically motivated, they'd go back to normal the next day. I don't think that's going to happen. Once you're convinced that you're going to die, it takes a lot to convince you otherwise. And these people are absolutely digging in their heels.
Yes, you're right, but it does show the enormous power of the media, and I do think that after the election, it won't be like the next day. Rachel Maddow will announce, okay, this whole thing was a joke, but I think starting after the election, they will start, all of the media will start admitting the truth, the kind of things you hear on your program or on various of our Twitter feeds. And yeah, it's a very bad thing, but but we do know some things about it. And if you're younger, there was just a story I was listening to it on CNN, only my second favorite network after MSNBC. And they threw it out there. Did you hear about these teachers in Arizona? And they were doing Zoom classes from the school. There were only three teachers in a classroom. And they were, they had their masks on and blah, blah, blah. And I think they all got COVID, but one definitely died of COVID. And I'm thinking, if we can't protect, three teachers in masks alone in the school, how are we going to protect the children? I mean, three teachers, that one, there are outliers. We're a country of 320 million people. Everything's going to happen now and then. But I looked up this story, and the teacher who died sounds like an absolutely wonderful woman, good Christian, dedicated to her children. There she was teaching in the summer, me and her, no ill will whatsoever. But she had a catalog of health problems, age 61, full-on diabetes, definitely obese.
Wasn't she retired and then came back, or partially retired, something along those lines?
Now that you mention it, at age 61, probably. She had lupus, massive respiratory problems, and I think there was a heart problem, too. But to look at that case, I mean, she isn't the one who said this. She can't speak anymore. But the superintendent of the school pointing to that case and saying, if we can't keep her safe, how can we keep kids safe? Okay, that's a lie. You are a liar. We can't believe anything you say. And by the way, you guys are all drawing your salaries, which is my second point, or whatever point I'm on here, which is to support your idea that even though the media will slowly start telling the truth, and then let's hope that people who are genuinely frightened by the things the media is lying about will hear the truth, and the ones who don't need to be worried will stop being worried. The contrary argument, which goes back to your point, is most of the ones pushing the COVID panic porn are not hurting from the shutdown. Oh, to the contrary, their lives are better, such as, e.g., teachers. And worse than that, educators. Whenever you hear educators, I mean, I like a lot of teachers. They're actually doing something. No, it's the layers and layers of administrators and union officials. Those are educators. They never see a child. They're all getting full salaries, full health benefits, full pensions, and they get to stay home. They can go whitewater rafting. And, of course, the same thing with the people on TV, although they may not have a political incentive to keep lying about COVID. They are getting a lot of viewers as long as they act like the nation is in the middle of this massive pandemic like we've never seen before. And, again, it's bad. Screw China. We ought to make our own stuff here. People died, or at least died earlier than they should have, only because of China, so don't get me wrong. But there have been really, really terrible flus before. I'm not saying it's just a flu, but this is only a little bit worse than a really bad flu, and we've never done anything like this before. Also, they lied to us. That business about, we're going to shut down the country for 2 weeks, how on earth did that extend into 6 months? And point 17 or whatever I'm on now. On this mask issue, as you know, I'm a mask wearer from way back because I am a germaphobe. Not just for COVID, because it wasn't around, just, common cold. The ordinary cloth mask actually has worked magnificently well on airplanes, cut down on my colds by like 80%. So I am not an anti-mask person. Think it's moronic on a beach or if you're biking or outside any place. Yet and still, that should be the trade-off. Fine, we will all wear masks, but you're opening up the country. We want to go to baseball games. We want to go, we don't want to go to football games. We want to go to concerts and comedy clubs, and we will all wear masks. But you don't get to have both, making us all wear masks, often pointlessly, or for no reason, and we're also going to have everything shut down.
It was at a baseball game where I learned that Ann Coulter has cat-like reflexes when a foul ball came at your head about 932 miles an hour, and you dove faster than the ball could hit the chair.
I want to go back to an Angels game.
I don't think that's going to happen for a while.
Do you get those same seats right in the foul line?
Yeah, but now there's a net.
You can't just, sit back and start chit-chatting.
Now, what do you think about my theory that the left wants to close down the schools so that there are no polling places in November and we can ensure an all-vote-by-mail election?
This is one thing Trump has been very good on. I think he's waking people up to the real danger of vote harvesting and what liberals, what they really have in mind when they say we have to vote by mail. Now, no one in the White House seems to understand this, so I don't expect anyone else to. But voting absentee and vote by mail are two different animals. It's like, lightning or a lightning bug. Yes, they sound similar, but nope, totally different. If you vote absentee, I travel a lot. Obviously, I often have to vote by absentee. You have to present yourself at the office of the voter's registrar. You have to prove your identity. You have to sign a form. You say you will be out of town on election day, and an absentee ballot will be sent to you. Vote by mail, by contrast, is the voters registration office or the elections office just randomly sending out millions of ballots. And wherever they go, okay, pick them up, and then you get voted for by various Democratic activists.
But see, here's the problem, though, and this is where I go back to, I think that half the public has internalized that this virus will likely kill them, even though many of them don't have comorbidities and are in that at-risk population. If you believe that human-to-human contact is going to kill you in 2020 America, then you're not going to talk to a ballot harvester who's knocking at your door. You're not going to show up to some union.
Oh, they don't want to talk to you, baby cakes. They want to pick up the ballot, especially in apartment buildings, especially this was a famous trick. I happen to know a Democratic operative who used to do it. The votes, this is in Chicago, a huge number of ballots would show up at this public housing project, and the activists go in, pick up all the ballots, vote the way they want them voted. When Republicans would come in and say, wait a second, that Cabrini Green housing project has a higher voting turnout than our most civic-minded Republican town. And the Democrats would say, okay, you want to go ask them? Go ahead. Go into Cabrini Green. So, no, they don't want to even talk to the people that they're actually addressed to.
But I think that if you knock on their door, these people are so scared they won't even answer it.
Exactly right. You don't knock on their door. It lands in the lobby of Cabrini Green. Cabrini Green has been knocked out.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
I'm using that as an example. No, neither the vote harvester, and I promise you, not the Republicans wanting to check to see if, this person
Signatures
actually
match.
voted. Yeah, they're not. Nobody's going to be knocking on these doors. Nobody's going to be checking this. They show up on empty lots.
Ann Coulter, thank you so much for stopping by today. I wish we had better news to talk about, but hey, we're on house arrest now forever.
Sorry about that. Talk to you soon, John Phillips.
All right, sounds good. Ann Coulter, everyone. You can read her online at anncoulter.com and follow her on Twitter at Ann Coulter.